My name is Emily Reese, and I'm the career counselor here in Career Services. So we're kind of finishing our series that we've been having on how to get ready for our virtual career fair. And so today I'm going to be talking to you about how to explore the event and sign up for sessions, and how to perfect your pitch and make a great first impression. So just a few things to remember. You are welcome to unmute yourself if you have any questions throughout the presentation, or if you would like to type those in the chat box, feel free to do so, and we will have someone answering those, and I will be glad to stay on after to also take additional questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to log into Handshake to look at the fair, make sure that we know how to get registered, and then I'll show you how to explore the event a little bit and choose some of the employers that you might like to meet with. So I think I see a few familiar faces on here, so you might have watched a couple of our other workshops that we've had, but just a reminder, the virtual fair will be taking place in Handshake, and so the website for that is troy.joinhandshake.com. And so you'll see that here on my screen. And so I'm already logged in, but always remember you will log into Handshake with your Trojan Pass credentials. And then you want to be sure to go ahead and fill out your profile and answer any of the questions that it prompts you when you're logging in. So I'm here on the student page. This is what you'll see when you log into Handshake. And to go to career fairs, you can do a couple different things, but I'm just going to click right here where it says events, and it's actually going to pull up all kinds of events that you as Troy students are eligible to attend. You'll see over here, I already have saved our virtual career fair, but you could also search for that over here, and then you'd be able to register for that if you haven't already done so. If you find an event that you're interested in, and specifically our fair, if you want to go ahead and hit this flag button right here, then you'll be able to have that saved on your screen, and so you can see it just like I have done here. But I'm going to go ahead and click into the fair. And you'll see that it says that I need to schedule sessions. And so that's what I really want to focus on today. We have another YouTube video that you can watch if you want to learn about how to explore the event and find employers. But right now, the main purpose of a virtual fair is to meet with employers. And so in order to do that, you have to go ahead and pre-plan your schedule and who you're going to meet with. So once I start clicking in here, you'll see that you have the option to schedule group sessions or individual sessions. So obviously this is going to function just a little bit differently than an in-person career fair where you can just walk up to a table and talk to whoever you would like. Virtual career fairs take a little bit more planning on your end, and so I'm really glad that you tuned in today to learn how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click into our virtual fair, and here you'll be able to see that I am actually registered. So if you were not, you would want to click on the register button, fill out the questions, and then you would be officially registered for the fair. But that's not all you have to do, because being registered doesn't ensure that you're actually going to be able to meet with any of the employers. So you can kind of scroll down here, read some of the details, and then I'm going to want to go to available sessions. So I actually haven't signed up for any at this time, and so this is what you're going to want to do. So you can scroll through. I would say just do an overview, look at all of the employers who are registered for the event, read a little bit of their description, maybe do some research and see who they're actually looking to hire and if this is something that fits your major and your skill set. But as you're scrolling through a little bit, you'll be able to see companies can schedule, like I said, group sessions, and those are going to run 30 minutes each. And they can also choose to schedule one-on-one sessions. So those are going to be individual with just you and an employer. These are going to run for 10 minutes, and I definitely encourage you to schedule as many of those as possible. So you really have to think to yourself as you're going through and registering for these sessions, what's going to be the most valuable for you? Do you want more of an overview of the company and so attend a group session to learn more? And or would you like individual sessions? So you're going to be able to schedule a lot more individual sessions than you will group sessions. But again, this fair is going to run from 1 to 4, and so you can fill up that whole 3 hours if that's what you would like to do. But definitely make sure that you're looking at the companies and choosing people that go along with your major and your skill set. So you can see some companies are going to have several group sessions as well as individual sessions, and some will just have one or the other. I'm just going to scroll and let you view that a little bit, and then I'll click on something and show you an example. So let's say I want to look at Markle Corporation. So I'm going to click on one-on-one sessions, and I can see the available representatives. So some companies are going to have several representatives. You can just kind of choose the one that you would like to meet with at the time that you're available. So I can choose 110, and then I would click confirm, and that would add it to my schedule. So I actually don't want to do that because I want to leave these times available for you guys, but you just remember that. You can also look here where it says show other times, and you'll see that this employer is actually available from the start of the fair to the end of the fair. So go in and claim whatever time slot is going to fit best for you. And so again, you'll just do that. Make sure that you're keeping track of who you're scheduling and when. And then actually when it comes time for the day of the fair, you will just log into Handshake, and you'll be able to access the event and meet with the employers all through Handshake. So you shouldn't have to download any additional software unless while you're meeting with them, they say, hey, can you use this Zoom link and hop over and talk to me here? But Handshake is actually going to have the capability for you to be able to chat with these employers in a chat room, and then also be able to turn on your webcam if necessary, if the employer requests that, for you to do kind of a one-on-one interview like we're doing right now, where you can see my face. So we have several companies in here who have set up their group sessions and their individual sessions. There's 4 pages, so just scroll through and make sure that you fully take advantage of all of these employers and companies who are willing and waiting to talk to Troy University students. So then that kind of covers really the exploration of the event and how to get registered. I just want to remind you that it's super important for you to go ahead and do this now. So that's what we're pushing out to students. We are exactly 1 week away from the career fair, and so now it's time to log into Handshake, make sure that you're registered for the event, but not only registered, that you've selected some individual sessions to attend, to make it really beneficial for you as a student. So if you guys have questions, let me know. I'm going to hop over into a PowerPoint and kind of go through how to get prepared, how to make that great first impression, and some things that you should be kind of thinking about as we're moving forward and getting close to the fair. So let me go into the PowerPoint here, and we'll kind of talk through a few things for you. So a couple of tips on how to prepare for the virtual fair. Again, I'm going to repeat this so many times because it's really important, but make sure that you're signing up for sessions early. So like I just showed you, make sure you're going into Handshake, you're looking at all of the employers, and then really selecting the ones that you would like to speak with. And be sure to choose, a company name that you know, but then also look at some that you've never heard of. Do a little exploration and see if they would be a good fit for you as well. So that way you can network and meet somebody new from a company that you're not familiar with. But don't wait until the day of the fair to start filling up these time slots, because the employers, they want to know who they have scheduled that day, and it's going to look a lot better on your end if you've scheduled a week out or a couple days in advance, instead of just 10 minutes before a session popping into the room and saying, hey, what do you do? That's not really going to look so good from the employer perspective. I talked a little bit about this during our last workshop, but I want to touch on it again in case we have some new faces. Be sure that you're researching the employers who are attending the fair at all, but especially the ones that you're signed up to talk with. And so there's several ways that I've listed here that you can go about doing this. One would be looking at their Handshake profile. And so that's an easy way. They should have uploaded a little bit of a summary, even some of the jobs that they're looking for, and just a basic overview of their company. So at the very, very minimum, you should have looked at their Handshake profile. Then I'm also going to suggest that you view their company website. Look for things like their mission statement, their corporate values, how they're involved in the community, what kind of pictures are they displaying on their website. Really get a feel for that culture of the company, so that way you can start to prepare some questions that you may want to ask during your individual meetings. Social media is always key. I said this last time, but every company should really have some sort of social media presence. So making sure that you're looking at a variety of platforms to really figure out, again, what's the culture of the company, what's important to them, and what kind of image do they put out on the internet. And then also another idea is you could research some news articles or just Google the name of the company and see kind of what pops up. Is Are there any, interesting articles that you can see or things that they've done in the community that you could just kind of make a note of to bring up and talk about during an interview? And then you also want to practice your elevator pitch. So that was kind of the point of this session today, is to help you be able to put into words a little bit about yourself to be able to start off your individual session strong. So I'm going to go into more detail in the next couple of slides, but whenever you're thinking about your elevator pitch, it should cover really three main things. So a little bit of your background about your academic studies, your experience, and your career goals. So a few things to keep in mind with an elevator pitch is it should be a really short summary of yourself, but we always want to keep these professional. So you don't need to start off and say, my name's Emily, I was born in Georgia, and then I moved to Alabama, and give a whole background. You don't need to include, whether you're married or have a dog or anything like that. We're really trying to keep it very professional. And just a quick overview of yourself and your interests. So here's a little bit more detail just to get you thinking about some things that you may want to include in your elevator pitch. The reason we call it an elevator pitch is because it needs to be really short and sweet. So the whole idea is, let's say you're going for an interview at a company, you get in the elevator and in walks the CEO or the president of that organization. You've got 20 to 60 seconds to really make that good first impression and say something that's going to stick with them. And so that's the point of your pitch, is what could you tell someone who works for the company that you're interviewing for quickly about yourself within the amount of time it takes from an elevator to get from one floor to the one that you're going to. So keep it short and sweet, and it's really just an overview about yourself to help the employer get to know you. So we do want to keep it short. I said here a minute or less, but really they probably won't get to be a minute, because if you realize when you start talking for a minute, it's going to feel like a really long time. So you don't want to make it 10 seconds, but I would say 30 to 40 seconds is probably your sweet spot. Just getting a basic overview out about yourself, but without rambling too much at one time. So some things you're going to want to include are your field of study. So again, you should always say your major, what you've been studying here at Troy University. Highlight any relevant experience that you have. So if you're a journalism student and you've worked for the newspaper on campus, note that. If you're a computer programmer, note some of those things that you've been able to do through some work experience. And then if you have any skills that are going to be really useful at that company or any certifications, feel free to note those at that time as well. It's also a good opportunity to mention some of your professional goals. So wanting to get started, in a company that has the same mission as the company that you're talking to. So reflecting back on that research and using some of the language that they use to really show them right off the bat that you've done some research on their company. Kind of ties into my next point. Don't be afraid to tailor your pitch to different industries or roles. So you will probably have the same pitch for every single company that you register to speak with at the career fair, because you do want to tweak it a little bit per the company and per some of the research that you've done. And so finally, it's really, really important to practice your elevator pitch, whatever works the best for you. So if you're the kind of person who wants to write everything down word for word and run it through a few times, do that. If you're the kind of person that just wants to say it out loud and make sure that, it makes sense and you put together some sentences, do that. But you can never practice too much. So make sure that you've said it out loud a few times, because I think often when we're thinking through things like this in our head, it sounds really good. But then when we say it out loud, we realize, oh, wow, I really don't know what I'm talking about, or I haven't organized this very well. So really be careful not to make it sound rehearsed, but to make it sound natural, like you're having a conversation with somebody, but know the highlighted bullet points about yourself that you would like to say. I think the good thing about having a virtual fair is you could have these kind of written down on a notepad in front of you. Please do not read it word for word, but have some of those points. I majored in this. This is some of the experience and the skills that I have. Make a little note about the company so that way you can refer back to that as you're talking to each individual that you sign up with. So I have a couple of examples here just to kind of help you see how it would flow together. So this one is a person who's an English major. So hi, I'm Britton. I'm a senior majoring in English. I've worked as a freelance writer for my university newspaper to see how they're tying in some relevant experience. And now I'm looking to grow as a full-time reporter so they have specifically entertainment, travel, or breaking news space. So that means that they're probably talking to a company who has reporting positions in those certain areas. And so they're really highlighting what Britton is interested in. I'm proficient in Photoshop, certified in Google Analytics, and have experience managing social media channels for small businesses. So I think if we look over that, we're like, wow, Britton did a really good job of saying, who they are, what they've done, but also what they're looking to do and what skills they're going to bring. So I've got a couple more here. This one would be for any of you guys who might already have a full-time job and are still in school to either continue growing that, whether it's a second bachelor's or a master's degree. So then you would want to say something like, hi, I'm Jordan and I'm a software engineer with the background working with high-growth e-commerce startups in the Atlanta area. So who are you? And then why are you here? However, now I'm looking for an opportunity that will bring me closer to my family and friends in Raleigh. So he's trying to move from Atlanta to Raleigh. So showing why are you interested in that when they can see on your resume that you might be located in a different place than where they're actually hiring. Again, showing some of the skills that he has in iOS or writing C++ code. And then finally, hi, I'm Taylor, and I'm a rising senior at Troy University. I'm studying finance and spent the last summer as an analyst, where I focus mainly on comparative financial performance analytics. So showing what you studied, what you thought was interesting. Now what? Now that I'm graduating in May, I'm hoping to find a full-time role as an investment banking analyst. So you'll have to tweak these a little bit based on your experience and based on each company that you're going to be speaking with. But I hope you can see a little bit more of how to tailor those things to really show who you are, but keep it professional at the same time. All right. So a couple more things, 6 steps just for overall success at a virtual career fair. Number 1, make sure that you've updated your profile in Handshake. So typically the first time you log into Handshake, you're going to be prompted to do this, but sometimes we either click exit or ignore, or we've changed our major or something and Handshake may not be aware of that. So make sure that you click on the icon that has your picture or your name and you update your information. Make sure it has your correct major, correct graduation date, any work experience that you have, the industries and areas that you would be interested working in, and you could also upload your resume in Handshake as well. So we would say definitely let us review it before you do that. But when you're signing up for the fair, it's going to be really useful for you to have your resume already uploaded, so that way employers are able to view that as they're meeting with you. Again, sign up for those group or individual sessions and do not wait until the last minute to do so. Think about the employers that you would like to meet with, and then start to develop some questions that you would like to ask. I'm going to go into more detail about this at the end of the presentation, but thinking about questions that you may have or details that you might want explained, go ahead and start writing some of those down for every company that you are going to be speaking with. Really important, make sure that you check your equipment and your technology. So I definitely have noticed, I'm sure you guys have as well, in this world of COVID where we're doing so many things virtually. Online is awesome and there's a lot of really great things we can do, but sometimes technology doesn't work or it breaks. So make sure that you have a functioning computer, you checked your Wi-Fi that day, you've got all of that figured out, you've checked your microphone, your camera, anything that you're going to have to use that involves technology, try to troubleshoot that beforehand, so that way once it's time and your group session starts or your individual meeting starts, you're ready to go and you don't have to worry about, is my camera going to work? Can you hear me? So this one's really important, especially for the virtual aspect of things. So make sure that you find a quiet place to sit and try to avoid any known distractions that you may have. So I will say in this virtual era that we're in, obviously employers are a lot more understanding about things going on in the background or at home because they realize that a lot of us are working from home, taking classes from home. The people you're interviewing with might actually be at home as well. So it's just kind of a different world that we're in right now. But that doesn't mean, sit in your bed and have your dog in your lap or let your roommate walk behind your camera. Try to avoid those things that typically happen. Maybe if you know that your doorbell rings every day or someone's going to come to your house at that time, don't schedule an individual session during that time just in case your camera's on and you're speaking with an employer. And this kind of ties into question number 6 too. So we also want to think about our background. What's behind you? So I mentioned, I know a lot of times in college we sit in our bed to do everything. It's where we do our homework. It's where we eat our dinner, all of those things. But try to find a good place for you to sit that has a nice, clean, professional background. It doesn't even have to be a blank wall. I think having a little personality or a bookshelf or a picture behind you could be fine, but you want to make sure that it's professional and in line with your field and your personality. So, set up your camera, do a quick check, see what's behind you, and then just make sure you've cleaned up that area so that way it looks good. Just another tip that kind of came to me as I'm mentioning that is sometimes we might want to put books under our computer to raise it up a little bit so that way we have a good angle, make sure that they can see enough of you in the screen and it's not like your face is, taking a selfie all in the camera view. So make sure you practice those because things can look different. If you're using your cell phone, just be really aware for what that could look like, because sometimes when we hold our phone like this, it doesn't show your whole face. So you might want to hold it horizontal instead of vertical, so that way you're making sure that you're getting a good background. I think someone might have turned their mic. Okay, good. So yeah, just make sure that you really thought about your angle and what you're showing and what's behind you. And then finally, thinking about making that great first impression. So even though it's online, we still want to be on time. So that doesn't mean you have to join the room 15 minutes early, 10 minutes early, but don't hop on at the last second, right? Be sitting down at your computer, have everything ready to go, take a deep breath, and then be ready to enter that room or that chat whenever the time comes for your individual session. And we also want to think about dressing appropriately. And I know this seems kind of funny when we're thinking about a virtual session and we've all heard, make sure you're just professional on the top, wear whatever, pajama bottoms you want. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying be really mindful of how you're dressing just in case. What if you had to stand up or your doorbell rang or something like that? Just keep all of that in mind. I think the more professionally you dress, the better you're going to feel, and that's going to help you do better. And remember that even though you are at home and this is a virtual event, that it still is taking the place of a professional career fair. So I'm going to show you here just a few things to kind of keep in mind. I've got this cartoon that shows you the difference between business casual and business professional. I will say, in my opinion, it's always best to go as professional as you can. So I think we've mentioned this before, but if you have a suit hanging up in your closet, why not dust it off, put it on? This is the perfect kind of event to be able to do that. But if you don't have a suit, I'm not saying you have to go out this week and buy one, but try to find the most professional thing that you have in your closet. Maybe it's just a pair of khakis and you've got a blazer that you can put on top. Ladies, maybe you can find a nice shirt and a little cardigan or a sweater to put over it. Just really thinking about, especially from the waist up, how do you look in the camera? But then if you were to have to get up, what are you wearing on the bottom as well? So when we're thinking about waist up, we want to be careful with, ladies, our shirts that we're wearing. Make sure your blouse is pulled up and everything's kind of buttoned. Make sure that your jewelry is not too intense. So we don't want to have a huge bulky necklace or big dangly earrings, because really they're only seeing this little bitty square of us, and we want them to focus on us and not so much our accessories. So men, if you want to wear a tie, do that. I would definitely suggest that you wear something that has a collar. So if a polo is what you have, then that's fine. But if you've got a button up, I would definitely put that on, even if you don't have a jacket or a tie to go with it. So whenever we're thinking about being professional, we're typically going to suggest darker colors and less patterns. And I think that still makes sense even in this virtual world, because like I said, they're usually just going to see that small picture of you. So try to keep it pretty plain and professional so they can really focus on you and what you're saying. I have a few more examples here to go over. So you'll see examples of business casual. So these would be any of the kind of things that aren't your suit but would still be acceptable in the business setting. And you can see there's a wide variety here of, men wearing ties versus a polo, and then ladies a nice dress with a jacket versus just a blouse and dress pants. So these would be acceptable for sure. But like I said, if you have that professional business suit, this is the time and this is the event to break that out. So you can look at some of these. You'll see mostly dark colors, blacks, navies, and gray, with ties, and a collared shirt is going to be really important. Okay. So, kind of wrapping some of this up, I want to focus on questions. So these might not necessarily be interviews, it's more like networking sessions. So they're going to ask a little bit about you, but it could really be up to you to lead some of these individual sessions that you're having. The employer can do a brief overview of their company, but they're going to want to know more about you, because what I imagine is going to happen is it's a quick 10-minute overview, and then they're going to say, did we like Emily? Do we want to bring her in for an interview? Do we want to have another virtual session with her to really ask her questions, about her skill set? So you've got 10 minutes just to make that good first impression, to hopefully have a follow-up call or receive an interview. So you should always be prepared to ask questions. This is the same in an interview and even in a networking scenario. Remember, this is your time to tell them about yourself, and then also ask questions to see if you would be a good fit and that company would be a good fit for you. So a couple of things you want to make sure that you're doing is, I can't say this enough, research the company. When you're looking at their Handshake profile, when you're looking on the internet, looking at their website, you should be starting to think of questions that you're seeing. So it might be more about the company culture, about their training period. Maybe you want them to go into further detail about a job description that you've read. Something that shows that, hey, I've done my research. Questions you don't want to ask are, what does your company do? What is this job for again? How much money am I going to make? How many days can I expect to have off? Those are all things that you want to avoid. Never ask those questions, but really put some thought into it to show that you've done your research and you're really ready to network with these employers. So here are some common questions and some things to consider. These are general employer questions. So I don't think in the group sessions you probably won't have a ton of time for questions, but you could have a few of these if you just want a good overview of that company, and then keep some of these in mind for your individual sessions as well. So some general questions to think about is, maybe ask them, how would they describe the culture of the organization? And you can highlight on that a little bit and say, I saw on your Facebook page this, and this. Does this describe your culture? And can you go into more detail about that? Especially since things are all virtual right now, you could ask about their typical office environment. Is it a very formal environment? Is it casual? What's this setup like? Does the leadership promote diversity and inclusion? Those are key topics right now, so definitely things to bring up to show that you are kind of in the know of what's going on in the news, but also that you're concerned about those things and want to know what the company is doing about those issues. I think it's always great to ask about any sort of initiatives or training periods, mentorship programs, leadership development opportunities, to see, is that company going to help you grow as a professional, and does the organization encourage employees to pursue advanced degrees? That's kind of a good question to ask if that's something that you're interested in, and it also might help you figure out if that is important to the company. Maybe they offer opportunities to help you pay for those degrees as well. Couple more questions continued. These would be more about a specific team or job. So some of the companies you see listed might actually have a job posting along with that. And so you might want to ask more specific questions, such as, what does success look like in this role or in this team? How would you describe the team or the manager? Are there opportunities for growth in this role or within this division? Do managers encourage innovation and creativity? And how do managers measure success? So these are good to really show, hey, I want to know, what is it like to be a part of this team in this company? So really getting down to, again, some of the culture and the values of the company. And then finally, we've got some for one-on-ones. So if you're really trying to dive into a specific job or something about the company, you could ask the person, what do you like most about working at this company? I love that question because you really get a feel for what's important to that person, but then also some of the cool things that the company might be able to offer you. Do you participate in employee resource or social groups? So I know a lot of bigger companies will have like a social club. You could pay a few dollars a month to join, and then they might have different events for you to go and participate in. And so that's just kind of cool to see what is that culture like among different team members. What teams do you work closely with? And then what's the best part of your job? Other questions you could ask could be something like, what's one piece of advice you would give me? What's something that someone, young and ambitious like me should know about this career field? So there aren't too many wrong questions to ask. So you definitely want to make sure that you have some. Just avoid some of those key topics like salary, pay, and time off and those kind of things. So keep it really professional. Show that you've done your research. So that kind of covers the bulk of the presentation. I know that was a pretty fast overview of just some of the things to expect and how to prepare. So I am open to taking any questions if I need to from you guys in order to kind of help you out. If I covered anything too fast or if you want clarification on anything, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can type in the chat box. Other than that, just be sure that you've logged into Handshake, registered for the event, and that you have selected either group and or individual sessions and times.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Let me get my camera.
Okay.
So when making certain impressions, would you say there are certain colors that might need to be avoided? So I've noticed that I'm less likely to get called back for an interview if I wear red.
Mm-hmm.
So I was reading something about it being almost intimidating.
Yes, I have heard that. Red kind of is one of those brighter colors that people would say would be intimidating. They used to say wearing a black suit was intimidating too, but they've kind of shifted that and said, black, navy, and gray, one of those would be a good choice. I think more of like a muted color. So I can't tell exactly what color your shirt is, white or light blue. That's perfect because it's kind of like that softer color, but you still stand out, and I'm not focused on what color or what pattern your shirt is.
Wonderful. Another question. I was wondering about is it a good idea to ask them if they have internship opportunities?
Yes, of course. So just make sure that it's nothing that's like specifically listed on their website really easy that you can find. But I think that's always a good question to ask. And sometimes they might not have advertised internships, but some companies are willing to work something out for you, especially if they've been impressed with you during that conversation.
Okay, wonderful. And then one of, I guess you could say, my what I'm nervous about the most is because it's virtual, there's not a lot of redemption wise if you mess up, or as you can see, I kind of break my words apart. Um, would would it be okay, like as far as like we're talking about like having a list of questions, not something verbatim, but just like a reminding list, and then ask, be able to take notes as the employer is speaking?
Yeah, I think so. So you bring up a lot of good points. I don't know, I feel like virtual is intimidating just because we can see ourselves and we're not used to that typically. So I would definitely suggest that you practice that a little bit, even if you're just pulling up your own camera. You don't have to record everything, but I would record that or practice that elevator pitch. Look at yourself, see, I use my hands a lot, so that's something I have to be careful of. What are some of your habits that you might need to work on as well? So don't be afraid to practice a little bit. We actually have an online interview tool called Big Interview, And you'll see that on our website. Maybe someone could put it in the chat box for me if I have any of my team members listening. But you could practice with that as well, just because it shows you that back and forth with your webcam. I also think that employers are understanding that we're all in this new world of using webcams. And so I'm not used to it. I doubt they're 100% used to it. You never know if their kid's going to come across the background, we're kind of at home and doing this thing together still. So keeping that in mind. But to answer your other questions, yes, always have some questions written down. It's good to go ahead and pre-think some of those. Now, when you're talking to somebody or if you go to a group session, they might cover some of those questions, so don't feel the need to repeat it if they've already covered it. But I'm going to suggest have about 5 questions per person that you might meet with. Some of those can be generic, but a few should be specific to that company. And that way, if they answer 2 of them, you can just kind of cross those off the list and move on down. Even if you were having an in-person interview or career fair, it's still okay to carry around like a portfolio or a padfolio with you that would have those things written down. And even in an interview, if you would like to say, do you care if I take a few notes? That's easy to do that too, and they can kind of tell what you're doing. So if you kind of find yourself writing a lot, you might just want to mention that, since they might not could see your desk and they might wonder why you're not looking at the screen.
Yes, okay. And as far as the portfolio and being to upload it, is that something we can do in Handshake, or do we need to receive an email? Or as far as our I'm not as familiar with the portfolio, to be honest.
Yeah, let me see. Let me scoot over here really quick and grab. This is what I was talking about. So it's just like a padfolio is really what it is. You can put your resume in there and some questions. So you would carry this with you to an actual career fair. But if that's what you want to do, then you can have that with you off to the side and write some notes. Now there are portfolios online that you can use as well. So I know in Handshake you want to update your profile, and that's where you can put a lot of your experience. You'll want to upload your resume, and it looks like Mrs. Cole in my office has said in Canvas there's an e-portfolio option. So I know depending on your field, I don't really know about yours if that would be useful or not, but I know a lot of our broadcast journalism students, they have an online portfolio. What I did read whenever I was kind of looking over some tips from Handshake is have those documents on your computer ready to send. So if you're in a chat room with an employer, because they might not all turn their cameras on, you just need to be prepared for that. I imagine most of them will, but if you have a few questions, you can type it in the chat as well, so that you'll see an option in there to send over your resume. So you should have that queued up and ready to go anytime you're meeting with somebody, just so they could pull it up and see. Same thing if you have an e-portfolio or a link to a website that you created or something, maybe just have all of those documents ready to be sent.
Okay, all right, that makes perfect sense. And then are they going to just use chat boxes? Is it possible that an employer is just going to do that?
I don't, it's our first time doing this, so we've just been reading the articles and seeing what they're saying, and I think it's a mix of both. It's probably what the employer's more comfortable with. Now, I would say, if you come on with your camera on, then they're probably going to turn theirs on and talk to you as well. I would be prepared for virtual face-to-face interaction, but also knowing that there will be a chat feature as well.
Okay, because that's one thing that I'm relatively nervous about. I'm good with talking face to face like this, but when it comes to like typing and especially really quick responses,
and
I get jumbled up, and it's
it's a lot harder. You got to worry about spelling and all of those things. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind if you are using chat. Proper punctuation, proper sentences, and spelling. But I'm thinking chat might be used. This is just my guess in the group sessions. If you had a question, there's probably going to be someone monitoring that chat box, just like we do here. But I would bet to say in your individual sessions, the employers aren't going to feel like typing all day either. So I really think that virtual option is going to be what they're going to choose.
Okay, wonderful. I appreciate it. And to anyone listening, when she talks about Big Interview, I've been using it.
Good,
It's excellent. It's a very good resource. I highly do recommend using it.
We might actually follow up with you sometime if you wanted to give a review for us, just like even something written that we could promote. I love it when we can show other students that yes, it is true. and that other students are benefiting from that as well. So we might be following up with you because I know you've attended all of our events and we really appreciate that.
No, I've appreciated it. It's made me feel better being someone with a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
It's nerve-wracking.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's scary. I've gotten a little bit more used to it since I've been, doing this since February, I guess, just staring at myself on the screen as I'm talking. But it's weird at first, and I think everyone's still adjusting. But the more you can practice, the better it's going to be for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.